Welcome to the Open Word, an online ministry of Boone Open Bible Church. Thank you for joining us. On today's program, we bring you Upfront and Practical, featuring Paul Becker from OBC. And now, here's Paul.
This story is about what I did to my wife. You see, back at the beginning of 2014, I was starting in a downward spiral in my spiritual life and also in my physical life. I was helping co-pastor a church, and I felt that the Lord was leading me to resign that position, and I did struggle with it. I'm just being honest. But I knew that it was the right thing to do. But then, I still struggled because pastoring is my calling and it's also my passion. And I know that's what God intended for me. So even though I did resign my position, I became very angry with God. First thing I shouldn't have done, but I did. I quit praying because I thought, how dare you? And I had the attitude of, how dare you take my church from me? That was my first mistake, because it wasn't my church, but it was God's church. So as time went on, things just continued to get worse. I got busy in my job. I let it absorb me, which brought me to mistake number 2. I connected with a female acquaintance and started talking to her in secret behind my wife's back. So, mistake number 3. By now I'm batting a pretty good series, but it's not in the right direction. For my wife and I, looking back, I care not to ever go back there again. But I did seek out the other woman. And the little adage that it says, your sins will find you out, oh yeah, it's true. Because God will bring about circumstances so that those are revealed. So my wife looked at the phone records of my cell phone and saw that I was talking to this person and confronted me, and I told her, yeah, I was talking to the other woman. We did seek counseling from our pastor, and for a short time, I did end the relationship, but only for a short time. I went back, started talking, and things just, got worse. In the months ahead, things at the time I thought things were going to get better. I'm going to live this life and I'm going to be free. But Satan was having a heyday with me, with Paul, because he had a foothold on my life, and he was enjoying the whole thing. In the early summer of 2014, my wife had enough of my cheating and asked me to leave. It was detrimental to hear that, but at the same time it's like, oh yeah, I'm free. But let me clarify one thing before we move on, and it's this. If you are stepping out of your marriage by talking secretly and romantically to someone else and have not had sex with that person, it is still cheating, and it's still a sin. And don't let anyone tell you differently, because what I just told you, I did. I'm thankful that God was with me, but the story's not over. When I moved out, I thought I was free from the hassles. I didn't have to report to my wife, but that was just the beginning. In the spirit realm, there was a battle going on, and the people that were praying for me started to loosen the strongholds that Satan had on my life. Because you see, my wife was praying for me, my mom was praying for me, I had my family praying for me, and friends were praying for me. I was far gone, and I am not sure if my mom either had a dream or a vision, but it was this. And she saw me standing on the edge of a cliff, a high cliff, and whatever decision I was dealing with, that cliff, that decision could be detrimental to me, both spiritually and physically. So when people pray, it does work. Because on June 22nd of 2014, I went to church for the first time in months with my wife, as I had promised her, and that was the only reason why I went with her. But on that same day, Almighty God was working in my life for the good. You see, on June 22nd, 2014, I got back on my knees and asked Jesus to come back into my life. I asked him to change me, to forgive me, and to reconcile whatever wrong I had done. And I knew that he had forgiven me, because I felt such a peace in my heart and in my life that I had not experienced for a long time. And so God is always good, and he's a God of second chances, because on that same evening, I ended that relationship with the other woman. I called my wife, and she wanted to know what was going on, and I was crying, of course, and told her what had happened and asked her for forgiveness for the things that I had done to her. I did return home that night, and that evening I talked to my wife, and we talked into the wee hours of the morning about the change. She saw the change in me, and even though, whatever time frame that was, God did a spiritual change in my wife. And she is such a godly woman to this day, more than when I left, when she had kicked me out. She is a very spiritual woman today, and I'm so thankful that through that trial, God grew her, and that he grew both of us. Matthew 16:26 says, "For what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his soul? Or what will a man give in exchange for his soul?" When God has a hold of your life, he does not let go. The past is where I learned, and it's where I applied those lessons, and I'm thankful for God that I didn't give up in the middle. And I wouldn't say me, but I think it was the prayers that went up on my behalf that I didn't give up. I'm humbled that I had family and friends praying for me, and basically praying me back into the fold. As the scripture says, we as sheep have gone astray. So we did not want to, I really didn't want to live for the Lord. I am also a different person today than I was back in 2014. But only through God's grace and mercy, I am extremely grateful that God goes to any extremes to do and redeem us at any cost. For Upfront and Practical, I'm Paul Becker. I'll see you next time.